What's going on, guys, and welcome to episode 516 here today of #AskGSM for Wednesday, October 18, 2023. I am Graham GSM Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well and having a great week so far. If you want to send in a question to the show, you can do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the #AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. Drop a comment on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not in the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below in the comment section on this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. We'll get right into it here. Central Man Network for the first question of the episode. First one being, Hikaru Shida has won the AEW Women's Championship for the third time. Do you think that the AEW Women's title is losing its credibility because it keeps hot potatoing? I don't think it's losing its credibility, but I'm not a fan of the constant title changes. It went from Toni Storm to Shida in early August, to then Saraya at the end of August, right back to Shida in early October. I'm not a fan of that at all, personally. I would not have... I mean, I know they put the belt on Saraya for that big moment at All In, and it was a great moment. It was a really cool moment. The reign wasn't great, though. She was barely on the show. The Toni Storm match actually exceeded my expectations at Grand Slam last month, but that's about it. They really haven't done much with her. They haven't done much else with her otherwise. And I think my bigger problem is not the fact that they kept the belt on Saraya only for like 6 weeks, which is, I mean, so here, two things are my issue with this, and nothing against Shida, but why put the belt on Shida for 3 weeks when they could have just gone from Toni Storm to Saraya in August? Shida did not need a 3-week run. If they waited until now to put the belt on Shida, I wouldn't have had an issue with her winning it back last week. With her winning it back for a third time, I'm done with Shida in the title picture. Shida's great. She's entertaining. She's one of the better women they have. We've already seen her have 2 other runs with the championship, and that first run lasted a year. I know that was a couple of years ago, but she got her moment in front of fans in early August. There was no reason. Again, if they didn't do that run, I may not have had an issue with her winning the belt back last week, but she did for a third time. I know there's other newer women that she can face and defend against and whatever. Shida has never really felt like a focal point. She just never has. Even when she was champion, they kind of focused on Britt Baker and other women before they focused on her. So, again, she feels like a placeholder champion to me. It was a great moment last week, and Shida's great. She deserves it. But I don't have any faith they're going to book her as a proper focal point of that division. And I also don't think that, going forward, that there are any intriguing matchups that we haven't already seen her have in her previous runs. So I would have rather seen them put the championship on Ruby Soho, maybe not Britt Baker again, but Ruby Soho. Toni Storm for a third time, I probably, for as great as she's doing right now with her current character, I probably would have had an issue with that too, because again, why put the belt? Like, she's already held it twice. She had 2 very good runs. Her current character doesn't need the championship. She can go after Chris Statlander at some point anyway. Willow Nightingale, I would have rather seen win the championship from Saraya than fucking Shida for like the third time. So that was my real issue with it. The championship is not losing credibility, but it was pretty silly. Micah Does It from YouTube, their first question was, now that Kevin Owens has been traded to SmackDown and split from Sami Zayn, should Sami challenge Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship or go after Seth Rollins in the World Heavyweight Championship? Either option would be great. We've seen Sami and Gunther once. They did the match on Raw. I think the Raw that I was at, actually, back in June in Hartford, they did Sami and Gunther one-on-one, non-title, and it was an excellent match. They can run it back with a championship on the line this time around. I would be all for that. I feel like that'd be great. Actually, I think it was Owens and Gunther when I went, and then it was Sami and Gunther maybe the following week, or a week or two later. But no, I feel like either option would be great. I would save Sami for the world title picture after he gets built back up a little bit. So probably Gunther first, then he I don't need to see Sami Zayn as Intercontinental Champion for the 4th time. But Gunther and Sami again, this time for the championship would be great. Gunther wins. I would like to see Sami kind of have that slow chase to the World Heavyweight Championship in the next 6 to 8 to 12 months or whatever, as opposed to going right for it and likely losing. He's not beating Seth Rollins for that World Heavyweight Championship. So I'd rather they slowly build towards that by first having him go for the Intercontinental Championship, and then maybe they can save Sami and Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship. It's possible they can have Gunther beat Sami to retain the IC title. Sami goes away from the title picture for a bit, does other stuff, feuds with someone else on the show, and then they go back to Sami in the World Heavyweight Championship picture when Gunther is champion, hopefully next year, and then he beats Gunther. He's the one to beat Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship. That's one way they can go with it. Mike's second question, why do you think WWE never made John Cena a Grand Slam champion, with the IC title being the only one he needs to accomplish this achievement? Because they don't really care about that sort of stuff. I mean, then again, they do, because they like to say, oh, this person broke that record and this record. But if you notice, they never really, aside from The Miz, they don't really go out of their way to talk about, oh, this person's a Grand Slam champion. And if they do, it's more of a recent thing. It's not something they were doing 10, 15 years ago. They were not out there saying, oh, Cena's a Triple Crown champion. He needs this to become a Triple Crown champion. The Triple Crown stuff, I don't know if WWE ever actually acknowledged that. I'm not even sure if that was a WWE term. I'm not even really sure who made that discretion that you need this, this, and this to become a Grand Slam champion. I'm not sure if they ever said that on their website, because they would never bring that up on TV. Oh, this person's a former Triple Crown champion. Again, in recent years, they've had like people like Rollins and Miz and people like that become a Grand Slam champion, and they'll talk about it. That's WWE's definition of what a Grand Slam champion is. Oh, holding every active championship on the roster. At one point, a Grand Slam champion was holding the Hardcore title and the European Championship. Obviously, those belts have not been active in over 20 years. But still, I think they never really made light of that until recently. So when Cena was still on top and active and whatever, if that was a bigger deal back then maybe they would have done a storyline where he was the Intercontinental Champion. But he was already the mid-card champion with the United States Championship many times, including in 2015. And there was no brand split at that point, so they could have put the Intercontinental Championship on him. But that was when Daniel Bryan was going for the belt. And Daniel Bryan won it, and then followed by was it Barrett or someone like that? I think it was Ryback, actually. It just kind of made more sense for Cena to go for the championship that he once made famous back in 2004, and then kind of have his career go full circle. And he really elevated that championship. And also, Rusev was the U.S. champion at that point. They wanted John Cena to be the All-American hero by unseating Rusev, who was undefeated, blah, blah, blah. That would have been the only time they could have put the Intercontinental Championship on Cena, because after that, he was a part-timer. And you're not going to... I mean, I know Logan Paul's a part-timer, and he's probably becoming U.S. champion soon. But it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense to make John Cena an IC champion just for the simple sake of doing so. Like, when he won the world title for the 16th time back in 2017, he was literally champion for like 2 fucking weeks. It was pointless. The win was great against AJ Styles at the Rumble that year. The reign was completely forgettable because it lasted all of 2 weeks. But anyway, the Grand Slam Triple Crown stuff, it is pretty surprising to think that neither him nor Taker are former Grand Slam or Intercontinental champions. I mean, I guess Cena is... Do you need to hold? I mean, I guess by WWE's definition, he's also not their definition of a Grand Slam champion. But neither of them were ever the Intercontinental champion, and that's the title that you need to become a Grand Slam champion, and specifically a Triple Crown champion. It is surprising, but at the same time, they never really cared about that stuff back then, so I can't say I'm too surprised. Christopher L. from Facebook, their first question was, do you think the WWE Women's Division gets the benefit of the doubt when it comes to their booking, while people greatly degrade the AEW Women's Division? What I mean is, when a WWE segment involving the women is on a show, people go absolutely wild. Example, Sean Ross Sapp. I don't know why you mentioned him specifically, but anyway. You said, but if a women's division involving 4 to 6 of the AEW women's locker room is involved, it gets roundly criticized. In fact, Toni Storm did those short film segments last week, and I thought they were far more entertaining than anything the women in WWE have done in months. And yet some online mocked it. And yet when the WWE women brawled, people praise it. Yes, I understand WWE doesn't have the strongest division, but I feel as though people don't have the same energy bashing WWE's booking of the women's division as they do for the women's division in AEW. What do you think? You're right to a certain extent. It depends what part of the internet you're looking at. I don't know many people. I mean, I don't know. Not on my timeline did I see people criticizing the Toni Storm short film segments, which were very entertaining and cool, and then praising the brawl that we got on Raw. I didn't see anyone. I mean, I didn't watch Raw live, so maybe that's why. It was a pretty paint-by-numbers brawl. I like what they're doing with the Women's Championship on Raw right now. It's a fucking mess, I guess. It's better than just Nia and Rhea one-on-one or whatever we all thought it was going to be a month ago. More on Nia later as far as her return and how it's gone so far. Yeah, I mean, I do feel like AEW's women's division gets a little too much flack as far as compared to WWE. Because WWE's is not great either. WWE, we're finally starting to see more women on the show. But before, Raw wasn't really an issue because Raw was getting longer women's matches, multiple women's matches. SmackDown, to me, is more comparable to Dynamite because Dynamite's a 2-hour show, SmackDown's a 2-hour show. That, to me, was where the hypocrisy would kind of, I'm more interested in the WWE Women's Division personally, but the hypocrisy was kind of evident in that case in the sense that SmackDown would get one women's match, and then Dynamite would also get one women's match, and they would probably go around the same time. And people would focus on Dynamite and Tony Khan not giving a shit about the women. But on SmackDown, no one really says much. So that's where I kind of see it. I don't really know what you're talking about with the Tony Storm brawling stuff in WWE. I mean, I haven't seen that at all. But the general principle of people not having that same energy towards WWE Women's Division is true. That is accurate to a certain extent with certain people. But at the same time, though, I feel like you'll see a lot of people still saying that Rhea Ripley is a weak women's champion, which isn't entirely inaccurate. I mean, I think her reign's been fine, but has her reign been overly exciting? No. I mean, she won the belt at WrestleMania. She's only had a few different defenses. She's maybe defended it, 4 times, maybe, in the last 5-6 months, which is not good. I think 6 months. She beat Zelina at Backlash. She beat Natalya in a minute in Night of Champions. She beat Natalya again on Raw, which was a really good match. And then she did not defend it again, I don't think, until she faced Raquel at Payback, which was 2 months later. And then again on Raw a few weeks after that. Neither of those matches were great. So yeah, I mean, it's not like people completely praise WWE's women's division but shit on AEW's. If that's the case or vice versa, that's just tribalism. I mean, there's no way either division is perfect. There's no way either company is perfect. You can't criticize a company for one thing but not the other when they're doing the same issue. I feel like AEW definitely has more of an issue of making their women a priority. Tony Khan, to me, and I've said this before, it just does not seem like he gives a fuck about the women's division. He does not know how to book women's wrestling, which is why I think they need more women backstage. You hear about all these people backstage on the creative team, QT Marshall, Christopher Daniels, Sanjay Dutt, blah, blah, blah. I think Madison Rayne was involved backstage, and I think she still is. Many months ago, I remember reading that report. And that might be as part of a management team. As far as creative, though, if it's just Tony Khan, that's an issue. They need more voices in that creative conversation, specifically women when it comes to the women's division. In terms of what these feuds look like, the feuds aren't terrible. It's not like they're feuding over some typical stereotypical Divas bullshit from 20 years ago. Oh, you stole my perfume or some dumb shit like that. But still, there's not a lot of depth in that division. The Toni Storm stuff is great. I feel like Toni Storm came up with that herself, and then they just kind of rode with it. Not to not give Tony Khan any credit for it, because they're doing a good job of booking her so far. Chris Statlander's doing well. But they need more in-depth rivalries as opposed to just, I'm challenging you for this championship. I mean, WWE has the same issue right now, I get it. But I feel like there's more interesting characters on the WWE side than there are in AEW. But again, I agree that the people need to have the same energy towards both women's divisions and not just one company or the other. I feel like NXT honestly does their women's division better than any other brand in any other company right now, specifically in the mainstream. I mean, last night alone, they had 4 consecutive women's matches on the show. 2 of them weren't great, mind you. They were as part of that NXT breakout tournament. But they're focusing on the women with that. They have the main title picture. Jade Cargill maybe coming in. Becky Lynch working with the newer women. A lot of stuff going on right now with the NXT women's division. Gigi Dolan and Blair Davenport are currently feuding. Roxanne Perez and Kiana James are currently feuding. They have a lot of women's feuds and stories and characters going on at the same time. They do a better job with their women's division than WWE, the main roster, or NXT does, or rather AEW does at the moment. It's actually pretty impressive. Their next question: buy or sell on worst Impact storyline, Claire Lynch or Aces and Eights? It's got to be Claire Lynch. Aces and Eights sucked, but the Claire Lynch thing was just, it didn't last as long, but it was just embarrassing. The actress sucked. No offense. I mean, I guess offense, but she sucked. The actual angle was awful. Dixie Carter getting involved was awful. It did lead to those great Christopher Daniels, AJ Styles matches, but we were already getting that anyway. It was an unnecessary chapter in a feud that was getting stale by that point, and they needed to do something new to kind of stretch it out, and that's what it was. That was very bad. The Aces and Eights stuff also sucked, and that dragged on for way too long. But there were certain points, like when, Bully Ray first went heel, that it was cool, and he was a great fit for the role. It was when it dragged on for too long that it kind of jumped the shark for me. But the Claire Lynch stuff was pretty bad. The worst part about the Claire Lynch stuff was that it was happening at a time when Impact was doing great stuff. I mean, their product, to me, from an on-air standpoint, it was white hot. They were having great matches, great feuds, great, a great roster at that point, and all this other sort of stuff, great pay-per-views. And then smack dab in the middle of all of it is this Claire Lynch bullshit. That just never really made any sense. It wasn't consistent with the other stuff they were doing. I don't know. I think Vince Russo was gone by that point, but maybe it was the last remnants of the Vince Russo era, because that screams like a Vince Russo idea. His next question. Dianna Perazzo is going to be a free agent in the upcoming months, and she has yet to come to a new deal with Impact Wrestling. I think if she doesn't re-sign, she should head to AEW and align with Britt Baker, since both women are best friends in real life. And plus, this could give Britt new life as a heel when she eventually turns. I don't see her going to WWE, since she was mishandled badly by Triple H when they should have made her a star. What do you think of Dianna Perazzo in terms of her in-ring ability, looks, and character work? What are some of her Impact career highlights, and where do you see her going? I think Deanna's great. She's always been great. WWE, I mean, obviously she was there years ago. You mentioned that. But she was doing extra work a lot for them, even before that. She was involved a lot as an enhancement talent in the original Black and Gold NXT years ago. She did stuff on the main roster for them when she was still in Ring of Honor. She didn't really start to hit her stride until she went to Impact. And I'm not even sure she was capable of this character then in NXT. But honestly, I think her leaving NXT and getting fired and whatever was really what motivated her to go out and do this great work that she's doing right now and kind of reinventing her character, because she wasn't doing this shit in Ring of Honor. Would she have done this stuff in NXT given the opportunity? Yeah, probably. I still blame WWE for mishandling her, Triple H, NXT, whatever, because she was there for like a year and a half or two. She was already polished enough to where she didn't really need to be in the PC for longer than she was. She was never really on TV. She was a glorified enhancement talent. They did fucking nothing with her. And they wanted to do that whole VXT thing with her and Chelsea Green. That went nowhere. They did it in Impact later on, but they never really did it in NXT. They never really gave it the chance. So, yeah, I'm not sure. I think with Dianna Perazzo, it would be cool to see her back in WWE and redeeming herself in terms of their booking and Triple H realizing, I messed up last time. I see you now for the star that you are, and let's use you properly. I just don't have faith they would use her properly. I think part of her Impact success, and this isn't a knock on her, but she's also a bigger star in a smaller pond. If she goes to WWE and you have the Charlottes, the Beckys, the Baileys, Bianca, Rhea, now Jade, and other women, I don't see her getting over at a certain level over those certain women. I just do not see her getting pushed. Jade looks a certain way, and Jade also just looks like a star. Dianna has a great look. Does she look like a star in the same way that Jade does? Absolutely not. I think Deanna's great, though. I think she's much better in the ring than Jade. But WWE may not care about that. They already have a lot of women that are great in the ring that they're not doing enough with right now. So honestly, her going to AEW probably would be the better fit. She can be with Britt Baker. They can feud. They can team, whatever. AEW's Women's Division has its own issues. We just talked about that. But, I feel like there's a better chance that she gets utilized properly than in WWE, where they have a lot of women that are firing in all cylinders and are just being used weekly. And other women that we aren't really seeing or aren't seeing enough of, or now just starting to see, like Tegan Nox and Xia Li and people like that. I just don't think Dianna Perazzo, and she doesn't need to waste time in fucking NXT. She should go right to the main roster if she were to go there. So I think her better fit, her better, likeliest chance of success would be in AEW over WWE. As far as her Impact career highlights, she's had a lot of great matches there in the last couple of years. The matches with Mickie James were great. The Bound for Glory match, the Last Woman Standing match, I think it was. The Texas Death match, I think it was actually what it was called. At their January show last year was really, really good. The matches with Jordynne Grace were great. The Iron Woman match they had at Slammiversary. Or no, was that at Slammiversary? I don't think so. The Iron Woman match came a couple of weeks or months later. But that was a really good match. The matches with Trinity this year were pretty good. So, yeah, Deanna's had a great impact. Great impact in Impact. She's had a great Impact run. And I look forward to seeing what she does next. I do think she needs to move on from Impact, though. She's done all that she can there. She's a multi-time former Knockouts champion, tag team champion. She's been a babyface. She's been a heel. She's done it all. It's time to move on. I think AEW would be the place to go. His next and last question here. I have thought about this for a short while, and I feel since Gunther is on another level right now in terms of character work and in-ring work, he should be the one to dethrone Seth Rollins at WrestleMania next year. Cody already has Roman in his sights for next year's WrestleMania, so if there is anyone to truly send the architect on vacation, it's the Ring General. What say you? I completely agree. I don't think that's a bold prediction. I think a lot of people have been saying that for months now, really since Rollins became champion. It would make sense, too, because I don't know if they move away from the story, but if Rollins' back is legitimately hurt, and even if it's not, they establish that in the storyline, he can keep working through it, like Orange Cassidy when he was the international champion. They kept teasing an injury or that he was beaten down, and then he eventually got to a point where he just couldn't keep up anymore and he lost. That should be the story they tell with Rollins and him losing to Gunther. Is there a long shot chance of a Rollins and Punk match at Mania? Yes. Do I think that happens? No. I think Gunther and Rollins would make more sense. I think Gunther should win the fucking Rumble. I don't know how exactly they get to Cody and Roman. They can figure something else out. Cody does not need to win the Rumble twice. But I do think it should be Gunther. He lost last year. It probably should come down to Cody and Gunther again. And Gunther this time wins by throwing out Cody. I think that'd be great. And then we can get Gunther and Rollins in Mania with Gunther becoming champion. He can lose the championship on that same show to Chad Gable or on another show around that same time. He doesn't need to walk into WrestleMania the Intercontinental Champion. He can lose it before then to Chad Gable. But yeah, I think Gunther beating Rollins in Mania for that belt would be great. That's what I would do. No L from Facebook. Their question was, do you think that the tag team titles are dead with this hot potato back and forth booking with the Judgment Day? Again, same thing with the AEW Women's Division. I don't like the hot potato booking. I think it's stupid. And unnecessary. Does it kill the belts or the division? No, I think it's unnecessary. It doesn't do them any favors, but it doesn't kill the credibility or kill the division by doing the hot potato booking. They need to stop doing it for starters. But, listen, the tag team titles are not dead. They've been defended on Raw in the main event 2 weeks in a row now. They had a great match at Fastlane, a great match at Payback. They're all over Raw. They're all over SmackDown. This year has been the most important those tag titles have felt in probably a decade, if not more, at least. I mean, the tag titles have largely been an afterthought on these shows for a very long fucking time. Merging them, and we still need new belts, merging them was the best thing they could have done a year ago because the division was not strong enough on each respective brand to keep it going with two separate sets of titles. One undisputed set of tag titles was the way to go. They put the belts on Owens and Zayn in the main event of WrestleMania, an amazing match, an amazing story, the right way to go. I enjoyed their run. People would say it's underwhelming, and, that's understandable, an understandable opinion to have. But in my opinion, they had a very good run. They had a lot of great matches, and they were over, always in the main event of Raw, feuding with the Bloodline and Judgment Day and all this other sort of stuff. They cut their run short by, a little bit shorter than they probably needed to. But still, I still think that they had a very good run as a team for the time they were together earlier this year. So the division and the titles are not dead, but they do need to move away from the hot potato booking, and I still don't think it's over. Yeah, because Balor and Priest are not going to be champions for that long. So they're just going to lose them to another team, maybe even DIY before the year is through. I would hold off on that, but again, we need actual teams holding these championships. Not Cody and Jay, not the fucking Judgment Day. They're great, but we need actual teams, and they do have actual teams. I'm not talking about the New Day. I'm talking about, the Profits have already held the belts a bunch too, but not in a while. And now they're heels, so it kind of feels fresh again. But then we have Indus Sheer. There's a lot of different teams between the two brands that you can put the belts on. Pretty Deadly's another team that's really risen up, and they're great, so at least in my opinion. So, hopefully they can kind of move on. And they've had emphasis on the tag team titles, but not really the division, if that makes sense. They need to put the belts on a team that will be together for a while and are an actual team that can continue to elevate that tag team division and not become afterthoughts. I would say DIY, but there are other options as well. Their second question, should Logan Paul win the U.S. Championship from Rey Mysterio? Yes and no. So here's the thing. I don't mind seeing Logan Paul as champion. I think he's a perfect fit for that United States Championship. Two issues I have with it are this. One, I think it should have been Santos Escobar beating Rey for that belt. Escobar's already lost to Rey, I think, once. They had their championship match a couple of weeks ago and he lost, and he acted all dejected and whatnot. And it was great selling, and he did a great job with it, blah, blah, blah. But I thought it would lead to the end game of him beating Rey for that championship at some point, soon or down the road or at Mania after a heel turn. If Logan Paul takes the belt, then we're still going to get Santos and Rey. It just won't be for the championship, and that's fine. It probably doesn't even need the belt. But I wanted to see Santos as champion. It kind of helps him out to be champion over Rey Mysterio. Logan Paul has nothing to gain from becoming champion aside from just mainstream attention for WWE. WWE has a lot to gain. Santos gains nothing. Logan doesn't really gain anything. I like the idea of a Logan Paul-Rey match. They talked about that earlier this year when Rey was on his podcast. I'm looking forward to the match. And again, my other issue with it is that Logan Paul is not a full-timer. He might come around once in a while on the build of a pay-per-view. He's not around every week. And not only will we have a part-time champion if and when he wins, we're going to have 2 part-time champions on the same fucking show. Roman Reigns will at least be undisputed Universal Champion, at least through WrestleMania. That's another 6 fucking months of a part-time champion. And then in the midst of all of that, you're going to get another part-time champion? I mean, what title will these people on SmackDown even have to fight for the men? Will they go for the women's title, the tag titles? I mean, those aren't even on SmackDown all that often either. SmackDown has nothing to fight for if the United States Championship goes away, which it probably would if Logan Paul wins it. We might not see Logan Paul in action again, at least until the Rumble, if not WrestleMania. I mean, that's just ridiculous. The one bright side would be, and this is where I think they're going with it, Logan Paul beats Ray for the belt, holds it till Mania. Again, not ideal because they want him to actually be on the show defending it. And if he is, great. I just don't see that being the case because he hasn't had a single TV match yet in WWE. That's another issue. But if he wins it, I think the person to take the belt off of him is LA Knight, probably at WrestleMania. I think there's a reason why they've held off on Logan Paul and LA Knight. LA Knight is not beating Roman Reigns for the Undisputed Championship, but they want to give him gold. The United States Championship would be the way to go, and having him beat Logan Paul would make the most sense. It's a great Mania match. My only issue with it, again, is Santos kind of gets screwed, and which is, I guess, is part of the story. And 2, Logan Paul won't be around full-time this entire time. So that's a 4-month run where he's going to have maybe one defense, maybe at the Rumble, and that's it. And that's just, at a time where we also have a part-time world champion, that sucks. At Reborn Again, John Ritland from the Twitter machine and on YouTube, Real Honesty with John Ritland. Check out his content. It's great work. His first question was, reportedly AEW has another pay-per-view quote-unquote locked in for December 30th, which is barely 5 weeks after Full Gear and 1 day after a Ring of Honor pay-per-view on the 29th, which I did not know about. I figured Final Battle would happen next month, or rather in December. I didn't know it was on the 29th, though. Anyway, he says, are they grossly overestimating the dedication of their audience that their audience has to the product? Yes and no. So here's the thing. I think it's silly that they're doing this many pay-per-views. I don't think... So here's my issue. WWE has monthly pay-per-views. They don't need monthly pay-per-views, but they do them. At least with WWE now, they've cut down to 3-hour shows with 5 to 6 matches on the card. Not everyone makes the fucking card. A lot of championships get left off. Gunther has not had a pay-per-view match in SummerSlam. He was not on Fastlane. He was not on Payback, and he probably will not be on Crown Jewel. I mean, it's one of those things where you can't squeeze everyone on the show. They're taking turns. They're putting the championship on this show, and they're putting this championship on this show. They're not having, both mid-card belts defended on the same show. Sometimes they will be. Most of the time they won't be. I mean, both world titles obviously need to be defended, but like with the women's titles, they don't typically have 2 women's titles matches on the same show. They kind of alternate, and that's great. Why can't AEW do that? They have just as many people as WWE. They don't need Ricky Starks versus fucking Wheeler Yuta on pay-per-view, among other matches. They do not need every title and every person represented on these shows. If they're going to do monthly pay-per-views, they do not need 14-match cards. You do 6 to 7 match cards and keep it a tight 3 hours. 4-hour pay-per-views that are monthly is fucking ridiculous. I mean, WWE was doing I don't know if have they ever done 4-hour pay-per-views consistently? Maybe a couple of years ago. I know they've inched over to like 3.5 hours, but typically, I don't know. At least the match cards weren't 14 matches though. They were just like 8-match cards where the main event would go 30 to 45 minutes. With AEW, they have 14-match cards and are squeezing so much onto these shows where it's really hard to digest every single match. So yes, they are overestimating the dedication of the audience. That being said, though, they have no reason to doubt the audience so far, because they've had how many pay-per-views in a row now? All In, All Out, Wrestle Dream. If the buy rates have been good enough, and I don't know exactly what they've been, if the buy rates have been good enough, then they're going to keep doing it. They probably won't change their formula in terms of less pay-per-views or less matches or whatever until audiences start realizing, listen, I'm not paying $50 for every single fucking show. I mean, that would be me. I get the shows for free because I obviously work for Bleacher Report, so, I would not pay $50 a pay-per-view. I'll tell you that much right now. I am not paying $50 a show every single month. I didn't do it back when WWE did it 10 years ago, 10, 15 years ago. I'm not doing it for AEW. I would never do it for AEW. I just think that's ridiculous. These shows are great, but they're not worth $50 every single month. I'd rather just catch the highlights on Dynamite. We get great matches on Dynamite. I don't need to see a great match on a fucking Sunday and pay $50 for it. That's just me. If you want to do that, that's fine. But listen, I do think they need to cut down and change some certain things. The weekly or monthly pay-per-views is a fine idea, but they don't need long cards. And all these pay-per-views are just, 2 on the same weekend, a Ring of Honor pay-per-view on Saturday, and then an AEW pay-per-view on Sunday. I guess it's the equivalent of a takeover on a Saturday and a WWE main roster show on Sunday, I suppose. But Ring of Honor ain't that fucking hot. So it's their first show in months, which is fine. It's going to be their first pay-per-view, I think, since July. But it's not like these pay-per-views are really worth buying. Ring of Honor TV you have to pay $10 for as it is, monthly, which is ridiculous. The show isn't even worth it to watch for free, let alone for $10. So, yeah, they definitely are overestimating the dedication of their audience to the product. But then again, if the buy rates are sustained and they're good numbers, then they're not going to change. And then I guess in that case, they're not really overestimating the dedication of the audience if they're sticking around and watching these shows and dishing out $50 for them monthly. John's second question. So Nia Jax being back on Raw has somehow sunk the women's division even further. I know it's only been 6 weeks since her return, but is it too soon to call it both a flop and completely unnecessary? Yes and no. I wouldn't call it a flop so far because it's not like, it's only been a month, like you said. It is still too early. And it pains me to say that because I do not like Nia Jax. I don't give a fuck about Nia Jax. I don't want to defend her, but I would say it's been too soon to call it a flop. It's only been a month. She's been on TV every single week. She's not out there having instant classics, but she is out there every single week being booked to look strong. She's being booked to look stronger now than she was at any other point in her WWE run. This is how they should have booked her 6-7 years ago. Too little, too late for me, but at least they're booking her properly. I do not want to see her win the Women's Championship for the record. She should not win the women's title come Crown Jewel. That much is for certain. Is it completely unnecessary, though? Yes. I don't think they needed Nia Jax back. I don't know how many people were clamoring for Nia Jax back. I said it then and I'll say it now. She was not really a necessary hire. I'm not complaining that she is around right now because she's not really doing anything egregiously bad. Give it a couple weeks or months. But so far, has it really changed my interest in the division for the better? No. They have other women they could use in that role. If they want this monster dominant heel, they could have put Piper Niven in that role. You don't need Nia Jax. She is very unnecessary. Has it been a flop? I wouldn't go that far. It's still too soon to say. We could just as easily have a 4-way at Crown Jewel with Rhea, Raquel, Zoe, and Shayna. Nia not being in there would not make a lick of a fucking difference. Nia not being in the company would not make a lick of a difference. But she's here. At least they're making the most of her, I suppose. His third question, non-wrestling related, but the newest Martin Scorsese movie, Killers of the Flower Moon, has a runtime of 207 minutes. Now, plenty of movies have long runtimes, and are done well, but isn't that too much to ask of people to sit in a theater for that long? Absolutely. Perfect example, about a week ago, I said that to Alexis, that movie comes out next week. And she said, we got to go see it. Killers of the Flower Moon, we're talking about here. And I said, that comes out next Friday. Is it this Friday? I think, yeah. And she goes, we got to go see it. And then I said, well, if we do, you got to bring a pillow. I said this jokingly, but if you do, bring a pillow. It's 3 hours and 26 minutes. Break for silence, break in the conversation. She goes, I'll wait till it hits streaming. And I'm like, all right, great. Because I don't want to sit in a theater. I don't want to sit in a theater for 3.5 hours personally. If it's not for a movie I really care about. Endgame is 3 hours. I saw Babylon, that was 3 hours. I felt every fucking minute of that one. That was not a great movie. Endgame was great, but that was a movie I was invested in. Killers of the Flower Moon, I've heard, has gotten great reviews, and that's wonderful. That sort of stuff is not my cup of tea personally. I'm sure it's great cinema, as Martin Scorsese would say. That's not what I personally enjoy. I like the shorter films, and if they are a longer movie, I would, if it's usually a property I care about or something I would like to go see or I'm excited for or know it's something that I'll be invested in from start to finish. This might be one of those cases, and even Oppenheimer was a long fucking movie. 3 hours and 26 minutes is a long, long time. No movie to me should be past 3 hours. 3 hours is a long time. That's like a 3.5 hour Raw. That is ridiculous. You don't need that long. And again, I'm sure the movie is wonderful. 207 minutes, even on streaming, is a long time. So, I am probably not going to see that in theaters. I'll probably wait until it hits Apple. I think Apple distributed it, So I would think when it's out of theaters, it'll be on Apple TV at some point, I would imagine, and I'll probably just watch it then. At Iwagoon91 from Twitter, their first question was your thoughts on Zachary Wentz returning to Impact and reuniting with Trey Miguel. I love it. They've been a great heel duo as the heel Rascals. They were never heels their first run of the company years ago, and they were also never tag team champions together. So now they're both. They're both heels and tag team champions. Miguel's been great for Impact in recent years. Wentz getting another opportunity is cool. I'd like to see all of the Rascals in the same place at some point. Like them with Wesley as a little faction, as a heel faction in NXT, would be pretty fucking cool. I don't know if WWE would bring them all in, but I feel like that'd be a great get for NXT. And also Wesley's more of a singles guy at this point, and they might not want to bog him down with, a tag team. But there is a story to be told there, and I think it'd be cool. But I've been loving the Rascal stuff in Impact. They've been doing great work as the Rascals and as Impact World Tag Team Champions. I'm looking forward to them against ABC coming up on Saturday at Bound for Glory. Speaking of Impact, his second question was, your thoughts on Impact reaching its 1,000th episode? An amazing milestone. I was there for that episode, taping last month in New York. Not New York City, but it was in White Plains, New York. And it was a great show. It was the first Impact show I've been to in almost a decade. I haven't been to an Impact show since early 2015, since January of 2015. So it's been a really long time. But Alexis and I, that was her first Impact show, and we had a great time. It was a really fun show, and it's great to see Impact still doing well. The product is fun. I like watching the product. It's a consistently strong product from week to week, and no one thought they would be around for this long, let alone for 1,000 episodes. So it's an amazing milestone, and I'm glad they reached it. Congrats to them. Your thoughts on Tyler Bate not being on the main roster for so long now? It's crazy to me. He's been in the company for almost 7 fucking years. I know the guy's still in his 20s. They signed him when he was 19. But, how is it taking this long to get Tyler Bate in the main roster? It was egregious when it took Butch or Pete Dunne or whatever to be on the main roster for as long as he was, in terms of it took them so long to finally call him up. These guys are not getting younger. I mean, Tyler Bate, again, is still in his 20s. I think he might be 26. They could keep him down in NXT for another 5 years, but there's really not much more he can do. He was on NXT UK forever, and if it was one of those things where he didn't want to relocate, well, he's fucking relocated now because he's in NXT, so there really is no reason why he can't be on the main roster at this point, and he absolutely should be. So, I don't know. I don't really get it why he's not on the main roster by now. I mean, imagine spending 7 years in developmental. It's one thing if you're Johnny Gargano and you're constantly doing stuff. They really have no plans for Tyler Bate in NXT. He's not doing shit down there. Not that they would have shit for him to do on the main roster, but him and Gunther for starters would be amazing. Regardless of whether he wins or loses. But, that would be sexy, but they're not just going to, they're just not going to do it. But, hopefully he gets called up at some point, and hopefully it's soon. At noob_co_, or rather noob_n_co TV, my apologies. Your question was, your thoughts on Nick Aldis being the SmackDown GM. I believe he'll be great on screen, but I hope he'll be in the ring soon. I get the feeling that WWE is not only interested in signing AEW talent, but NWA talent as well. Maybe. I'm not sure how many people from NWA WWE wants. Maybe Camille. I've thought about that for a while. Camille should have been in WWE or AEW a while ago. I know you're a big Natalia Markova fan. You ask me about her every single week. I don't really know. I mean, they want to fucking bring back EC3 or Trevor Murdoch or something? I mean, I don't think there's many NWA people that they want. But then again, they got a few different tryouts with NWA talent. Jamie Stanley, Maddie Renkowski. Maybe they might head to NXT. That's possible. But anyway, NWA does have a good roster, though. Colby Corino, I know, almost went there. So actually, you know what? I take that back. There are probably a few people in NWA that they want or would be interested in. All of those people I mentioned would be great in the NXT system. But anyway, as far as all this goes, I love the move. Love it. Been a big fan of his for a long time, since he arrived in Impact 15 years ago as Magnus. And the fact that he was never in WWE until now, to me, was egregious. I mean, he fits WWE to a T. And even if he's not wrestling right now, which is fine, he still has, he's still in his prime and he's in his 30s and whatever. He's not 50 or whatever. It's not like if he doesn't wrestle now, then he's done. It might be one of those LA Knight situations where they start him out in a different role and then ease him into an in-ring role from there. Very possible. And I think he should be in an in-ring role. It's way too soon to call it quits on his career. He's great. But he can also talk too. So this is a win-win situation because it gets him exposure on TV and it allows him to talk from week to week on SmackDown. And he's certainly great at that. It gets him familiar with the fans. And come a certain point, maybe he can jump in the ring as a heel and do his thing there. So I love the move. I think he's going to be great in the role, and I'm looking forward to seeing what else he can do as the SmackDown GM going forward. Great to see him on WWE TV finally after all this time. It should have happened years ago, but better late than never. Their second question, your thoughts on NWA signing 2 TV deals, and will it benefit in terms of ratings? As much as they want to see NWA talent, some wrestlers in NWA should have been signed to WWE or AEW years ago. It's cool. It's great for NWA to sign 2 different TV deals. I don't know with what network yet. They haven't announced. I mean, selfishly, I like them on YouTube because it's easily accessible for me to watch, but that's just me being selfish. It benefits the promotion to be on TV. Hopefully it'll get the talent better deals and more money, more exposure. That's the key. I don't think the deal on YouTube is all that profitable. They're just putting shows on YouTube just to put shows on YouTube, and that's about it. But, if they get a TV deal and it's a good network and I can watch it, then that's great news. So positive news for the NWA. That's a good thing to hear. And also the product has improved as well. I've said that before in my reviews, but the pay-per-views have not been great this year, but specifically since the NWA 75th anniversary show in August, they've really improved the quality of the show as part of this new era. It's not must-see or anything, but compared to what Power was previously, it's been a much better show with consistent booking and stuff like that, and it's been a lot easier to tune into, and the build for their upcoming pay-per-view has been well done. So it's nice to see, and very refreshing for the NWA. At E13A, final 4 questions here from Twitter. How much have you ever played of SmackDown vs. Raw 2006? A lot, not as much as 07. So here's my story with the video games. I'll keep it concise and I'll try not to ramble for 10 minutes here. But when I first got into wrestling in 2008, I had played 07 previously with an old friend of mine at the time that had 07. I don't remember it vividly, but when he was a wrestling fan and I was not, he would bring over the games and I would play and whatever. So when I got into WWE soon after, I didn't buy 08, but I got it for my birthday like a couple of weeks later. So I got 08. I used to play 08 a lot. And then, so I'm very nostalgic towards SVR 08. It was the first real wrestling game that I played. And then come probably early 2009, I got 09 when that came out in late 08, and I played 09 a lot when that came out on the way. Come early 09, that same friend of mine at the time, we would play 07 at their house. And I got really into that game, and specifically GM mode. And you guys know where I'm going with this. So within a couple of months, I found an old copy of 07, like an old Hollywood video or something, and bought it for like $10. And I would play GM mode. So then I played GM mode on my own and with that friend at the time a lot from that point forward, starting in like, mid 09 on my own. I used to play it all throughout like my early years of high school. When I got to high school in early or late 09, I would play GM mode all the fucking time. So I played 07 a lot. In late 09, early 2010, I kind of got back into 08 and played GM mode in that game on the PS2. Got back into 07 in like late 2010, 2011 for sure. I played my own GM mode when I went to college in 2013, 2014, 2015. So, yeah, I've played a lot. I mean, so that was the thing. I played only 06. I played 06 for a certain period as well. You're talking about 06. I'm thinking 07 in my mind. I don't know why I'm talking so much about 07. 06 I did play because I did like a linear GM mode where I did 5 years worth of GM mode in each game, starting in 06, then in 07, then again in 08 for a short while before I kind of fell out of it. But 06, I kind of worked my way backwards. I started with 08, went to 07, and then got 06 as well. Played 06 a lot in the summer of 2009. In 09, I was playing a bit of GM mode, but I was playing really a lot of 06 and doing GM mode in that. In 07, GM mode is better because you can turn certain stuff off, and I thought 07 had a better roster, but 06 had a good GM mode too. But I did play 06 quite a bit in 2009, some in 2010 in GM mode, and that was about it. I never really played 06 a lot after that, only really on occasion. So I haven't played as much as I have 07, obviously, or 08. but I did used to play '06 a decent amount, and I'm still nostalgic towards that soundtrack, having played it ad nauseum in the summer of 2009. I was going into high school. I had no internet, no TV. We had just moved into a new place, and I didn't have anything else. I had nothing else to do than play fucking SVR '06, and I would play that a lot. I beat the story mode. I beat GM mode. I played that many times over. So SVR '06 was my best friend for a very long time there, and I'm still nostalgic towards that game. It's a great game. Not as great as '07, but still a great game. His second question, do you think Sami Zayn and or Kevin Owens will win a world championship within the next year? Yeah, I'm going to say yes. I do think with 2 world titles, it's possible. I'm going to say Kevin Owens first, Sami Zayn also possible, because I could see Cody beating Roman. Cody goes to SmackDown, joins Owens on SmackDown, and then Cody faces Rhodes. What am I saying? Kevin faces Cody for the championship. Owens faces Rhodes. And then he can beat Cody for that championship because they can go off of the story, hey, you got me traded to SmackDown. You were on Raw with your buddy. What the fuck happened to my tag team with Sami? It was all your fault, blah, blah, blah. He turns heel on Cody. He becomes champion and gets the run that he should have had years ago. Sami can also become World Heavyweight Champion on the Raw brand. I feel like that'd be cool as well. So, yeah. I feel like once Roman loses the championship, you're going to get a lot more people that have not been World Champion before or in a long time holding gold again. Like Rollins, when the World Heavyweight Championship came around, he's World Champion now for the first time in 4 years. I don't know about people like Nakamura, but I think Owens will be champion. Cody, Sami, hopefully at some point. I think it's still possible Sami wins championship gold. He'll never be as hot as he was earlier this year, heading into the Montreal match in Elimination Chamber. But still, I still think it's possible for him to win a world championship. People would be receptive towards it, and it would be a great moment. So I'm going to say yes to both, actually, but more likely and probably on the sooner side for Owens than for Zayn. For Zayn, it should be a bit of a longer-term story, I think. And there's other people I would put the belt on before Sami come WrestleMania. Let's see. Next question from at E13A. Do you think MJF should remain AEW champion for the rest of the year? If they have enough challengers for him to face, then yes. Him and Wardlow would be cool, but Wardlow is ice cold right now. They got to heat him back up. That's the problem. I would not be opposed to Jay White becoming champion. I'm also not opposed to MJF retaining either. I think if they want to tell the story of MJF leaving potentially as champion, the bidding war of 2024, I think that works better if they take the Punk route from 2011 and he's still champion come early 2024. Will he leave as champion? Will he retain or blah, blah, blah? They might have him lose the championship before then if Adam Cole's not going to be back for a very long time. I do feel like he was going to lose it to Adam Cole at some point. I guess he still could. But if Adam Cole's not back anytime soon, then it might be a long time before he can become champion. So I would not keep the belt on MJF for another 6 months to a year. I don't know if he has enough opponents or if it's going to be as interesting. And we don't need another Roman Reigns run this time in AEW. A year-long run is enough. And he's had a great run, but he does not need to be champion forever. I would keep the belt on MJF for the rest of the year, but if Jay White were to beat him for it, I would not be complaining. That would be awesome. Last question, do you remember the NXT global localization, that's what they call it, quote-unquote global localization plan, and have you heard about WWE filing a trademark for the term? Yeah, I do remember that. I don't remember them filing a trademark for it, but I do remember the whole term global localization. I think what you're referring to is, and I've talked about this before, when they were going to do NXT Japan and NXT Mexico and NXT whatever, and that never really happened. I mean, they have to get NXT Europe off the ground first. They announced it a year ago and have done nothing with it since. And people ask about it constantly in those Shawn Michaels press conferences that I'm a part of before every live special. And it's always the same thing. He always says, oh yeah, we're working on it, no real update yet. It's been the same answer for a fucking year now, which tells me they're not working on NXT Europe. I mean, they put all that talent on NXT. What talent do they even have for an NXT Europe brand at this point? It's just not necessary. I feel like that would have been silly. NXT UK was one thing, and that was such a niche product. I enjoyed NXT UK, but there's a reason it died, because there just wasn't an audience for it. And also, they kind of didn't kill UK wrestling, but UK wrestling was a lot hotter before NXT UK became a thing. WWE got into it way too late. And by the time they finally got into it, people just didn't care. And it was also tucked away on the network, and no one watched it, no one gave a shit. So it was about time that show went away. There was no way they could do NXT UK in addition with NXT Japan and all these other shows. It's just not necessary. It's overexposure. The amount of shows they have now is perfect. Main event, level up, 2 extra shows you don't really need to watch, but it's Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. And that's all you need to really watch. You don't even really need to watch NXT, but I've enjoyed the show lately. But it's not like they have, NXT Europe and 205 Live and all these. I mean, main event is unnecessary. But at least Level Up serves a purpose, and the main shows are what they are. It's a bit more concise and clear in terms of what shows they have and when they are and why to watch them and stuff like that. The other brands, if they want to open up other performance centers elsewhere across the globe, then maybe. Having an actual brand in those countries, probably not. I think that's just overkill, and I don't think the interest is there. I also don't think a performance center in these places would work. I think they still have a performance center in the UK. I could be wrong about that, but I thought they did it. They did at one point when they were doing NXT UK, but NXT UK has not been a thing in a long time. They may have closed it. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure. But yeah, that global localization thing was like their way of killing every indie out there, from the Japan indies and New Japan and the UK indies with NXT UK, and it didn't really work, so they took a step back and moved in a different direction, which was the right move. And that's going to do it, guys, for episode 516 here today, 516. For October 18th, 2023, thank you so much for checking into the show per usual. I appreciate it. If you want to send in a question to the show, you can do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well at facebook.com/gram.gsm.matthews. Drop a comment on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below in the comment section in this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. Have an awesome one, guys. Enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll catch your ass down the road.